Welcome again, Maxim here, and in this video I will show you what modular weapons are and how to get them. I will also describe additional aspects related to them. Let's start with what exactly modular weapons are. We will talk about two types, Zaws and Kitguns. Both are assembled from three components. Zaws, melee weapons, require strike, grip and link. You create them on cities. Kitguns, on the other hand, are primary and secondary weapons. To make them, head to the Fortuna or Necrolisk. They consist of chamber, grip and loader. Each component must be built in the foundry, and their blueprints are sold by Hook on Cetus, Root on Fortuna and Father on Necrolisk. Let's start with Zaws. The number of components is quite large. 11 strikes, 10 grips and 16 links. This gives as many as 1760 possible combinations. But don't be scared. After explaining the assembly process, you won't be interested in most of the combinations. A given strike can be used to create two weapon types. For example, Plague Kripat. It can be used to create polearm or rapier. Strike also determines the dominant damage type of the final weapon. All of them, except Plague Strikes, have one dominant of the three physical damage types. On Plague ones, it is viral. No matter what mods you put in them, there will always be some viral damage as well. Now let's select Link. It affects the amount of dealt damage, attack speed, but some of them also change status and critical chance. There is one thing you should know about choosing this part. Fast weapons sounds quite interesting, but if you want to create a weapon that deals a lot of damage to high-level units, you should choose something slower. The more base damage a given weapon has, the more damage it will deal to more powerful enemies. Unless you want to create a fast weapon for applying a large number of statuses. It all depends on how you want to use this weapon and what you expect from it. And now it is time for a grip. This part determines which of the two possible melee weapons you will create. Grip also affects damage and attack speed. In the preview, bottom right corner, you can see the stats before and after gilding it. It is a process that releases the true potential of a weapon. It can be done after leveling it up to rank 30 in exchange for local syndicate standing points and some resources or credits. This will reset the level of your weapon, but in addition to the increased stats, you will be able to add one polarity. In order to earn mastery points from Zaws, do the gilding. 3000 points for every strike used for the first time, no matter how you assemble the weapon. I will also mention that regular parts for the Zaws are always available at Hooks. Plague parts appear every few months. It's good to buy more of them when they appear. Modular weapons have one more unique property. You can place a special Arcane in them that you can buy from vendors Hook and Root, or get them from bounties on Necrolisk. Arcane slot is visible in the upper right corner of the upgrading screen. Okay, let's move on to the Kitguns. They are built from chambers, grips and loaders. Each Kitgun chamber can be used to create two weapon types, primary and secondary. Right now there are 6 chambers, 10 grips and 20 loaders, so 1200 possible combinations. Also a lot, but many of them are not much effective. When you start assembling, you will see that only few combinations are really interesting. All depends on what you want to achieve with a given combination. Chamber determines a dominant damage type and the firing style. Loaders affect magazine size and the reload speed. Some of them also affect status and critical chance. Reload time can be an important stat, because during reloading you can be more vulnerable. Unless you play with a support or you are defended by your skills. The balance between status and critical chance is a matter of personal choice. What you want to achieve with a given configuration. Personally, I mostly use Kitgun as a secondary weapon. If you are interested in good damage, I recommend a ratio of 3 critical chance to 1 status chance, if you would like to create a weapon with a decent damage. Well, unless you prefer a secondary weapon for applying statuses. This is also a popular approach. Kitgun grip determines whether the weapon is a primary or secondary weapon, but also affects many stats: damage, fire rate, beam range, recoil. The fire rate in Kitguns is just as important as the attack speed in Zaws. Weapons with high fire rate will deal less damage to high-level enemies. Slower weapons that deal more base damage will be much better. Acquiring mastery points from Kitguns is the same as with Zaws. Gilded first, 3000 points for each chamber type, regardless of whether it is a primary or secondary. While you are selecting Zaws components, the description shows you exactly what type of a weapon you create. And if you are familiar with weapons in the game, you are going to know how to use them. Assembling Kitguns is not so easy, because it is not clear how a given chamber will shoot. Let me show you each chamber in primary and secondary configuration. Do not pay attention to the fire rate, status or critical chance. Some of the weapons showed here were created just for this presentation. Focus only on firing style. In this test, I will have almost identical builds on all weapons. Let's start with Rattleguts chamber. In both configurations, primary and secondary, it creates an automatic hitscan weapon, which additionally deals radiation damage. Note that hitscan weapon is the one whose bullets immediately reach the designated target. No bullet travel time. The secondary version requires some mods for fire rate for comfort of usage, for instance Lethal Torrent. Tombfinger, non-hitscan chamber. The primary weapon is a rifle. You can hold fire button to load it. When fully loaded, fires an exploding projectile. Not fully charged projectiles will not explode. The secondary version is a pistol similar to Rattleguts. Slower fire rate, but greater damage. Also, radiation damage is present here. Catchmoon. Again, no hitscan chamber. The primary variant is an automatic weapon with a narrow firing angle. The secondary variant has a wider angle and the bullets can punch through enemies and objects, so you can hit several mobs with one shot. Gaze. Hitscan beam chamber with radiation damage. The primary weapon version fires a powerful beam that deals damage to a single enemy. In the secondary version, however, it can strike more than one target, if they are close enough to each other. The Sporelacer is a plague chamber. Fired bullets need time to reach the target. As a primary weapon, it is a shotgun. Fires an explosive projectile that explodes with several smaller bombs. They have toxic damage. Secondary version is a pistol that fires an exploding projectile. No smaller explosions, but the range of the explosion is much bigger than in the primary version. And last but not least is a second plague chamber, Vermispacer. This fire style can be described as a hitscan if you ignore the quarter second for the tentacles to touch the opponent. It fires a beam of toxic tentacles. In primary version, they reach the targets from several meters, and after hitting a mob, they can reach additional targets if they are nearby. In secondary version, tentacles have a shorter range and do not spread onto other enemies. But the firing angle is wider and the tentacles deal damage more concentrated on one enemy. About few other modular things. You can assemble K-drives on Fortuna by visiting vent kits and selecting 4 needed parts from their offer. Amps are also modular weapons. You can create them by visiting Onco on Citus or Little Duck on Fortuna. I'll cover them soon. You can also assemble your own Moa pets or hounds if you visit Leg on Fortuna. I mentioned them in the video about companions, as well as Predecite and Vulpophilas, modular companions from Necrolisk. And that's all in this video. If you have any questions, please type them in the comment section or visit one of my streams, link in the description. See you next time, bye.